builds, and of course the honorable mentions like I always do. So there's going to be 8 gods that I'll be talking about today. Just going to be talking about the state of the meta, the builds, everything you need to be doing to win your ranked games and your casuals right now in Conquest. You know, just one of the standard videos. So hopefully you learn anything or two. Keep in mind, like always with these videos, I'm doing it off the top of my head. So, you know, if I ramble a little bit or stutter here and there, then, you know, just bear with me. Oh, shoot. My computer's been messing up a lot lately. So, yeah, we're just going to get right into it. We're starting out with number 5. At number 5, we have Robin. Robin did get nerfed in the bonus patch, but they didn't touch his shield, so he's still going to be really good in the soul lane because he's just so tanky with how big that shield can get. It's quite big. But yeah, it's pretty much the same build you were going before. I still like to go Bluestone on basically every like ability-based soul laner right now. Just really good for wave clear. You can still get the 4 potions plus the tier 1 Glad Shield if you're against a physical. So it's just really strong start, gives you that pressure, helps you clear PvE, and then late game those upgrades are still really strong. Just throughout the rest of this video, it's going to be Bluestone, but Tainted is still strong against healing comps, so it's definitely something you should consider. And if you're playing auto attack characters, I do recommend going Deathslow because Death Embrace is, in my opinion, like the most underrated upgrade in the entire game after they made it, so it gives you CDR on the auto attacks as well. But for the most part, this is pretty much the standard start you're going to be going on everybody. I like to go teleport basically every game, unless I'm against like a really CC heavy comp and I'm playing a character that kind of like needs a beads or something. Like for the most part, it's TP Blink, sometimes TP Beads if I need it, sometimes TP Sunder can be decent because it can help you do a lot of damage and kind of one-shot people. But yeah, usually it's TP Blink. I also like to upgrade my TP pretty early on. I like to go Persistent Teleport. If I'm able to get my TP upgraded before like 10 minutes, I go Persistent Teleport basically every single time. And if I have to upgrade it later on in the game, then I go Heroic Teleport just because you're not getting as much value out of that Persistent Teleport. But Glad Shield did get nerfed, but you're still going to be going it. I don't even know why the item got nerfed. It wasn't even OP. It's kind of like a necessary evil for us tanks, and it's just something that you basically have to go every game. One thing that did get nerfed that you probably don't want to be building as much is Manticore Spikes definitely did take a hit, but Arc Druids got nerfed, but that's still going to be really strong. In every single one of your tank builds, you basically want a Pridwin because you're going to be going into that Pridwin glyph. I'll just go ahead and put it on screen for you. This one, I don't go this one as much anymore just because the shield on this is actually so strong. And if you think about it, yeah, you get a little bit more damage from this, but with how big the shield is, the amount of times that it will make you live longer, that time that is created from living longer is going to make you do as much damage as you will with this Glorious Pridwin. It's going to allow you to get a cooldown back. It's going to allow you to get more auto attacks off. Going to allow you to be more of a nuisance as a tank and initiating the fight. So I actually like to go that one more often than not anymore. Now the item that I've been going a lot recently is actually Pestilence. Bit of inspired by Deathwalker with this one. Just a really strong item. It's like the single best magical defense item in the game now as far as prots goes because it gives you 70 after they've nerfed everything. And the passive can get up to 55% anti-heal, which is very, very strong in most compositions just because of lifesteal and how much healing is still present. I actually like going Redstone sometimes. I kind of go 50-50 on it now because the procs that it gives you is really good for Glad Shield and Pridwin procs. So I actually consider going Redstone. If they have like an auto attack jungler or maybe double like Hunter composition, maybe like an Olrun somewhere, Freya, or you know, or maybe like a soul laner who's auto attack like a Balloon or something. I actually do usually go Redstone in those situations. And then last item, kind of basically whatever you need, just a fill-in item here. Got an invite, unfortunately. You could go Midgardian here. That's always an option for those auto attackers. I wouldn't go Midgardian in Redstone because they don't stack, so that's something to consider. Binding just for a little bit extra damage, a little bit more prots for each of your procs on your Glad Shield and Pridwin. But yeah, there's a lot of items that you can definitely go in your last time. Maybe a damage item even, like a Brawler's to go for that, like 80% anti-heal. But yeah, for the most part, it's maybe a Midgardian, sometimes Spectral because crit is coming back into the meta. But yeah, that's the Robin build. Coming in at number 4, we have Tyr. A little bit different on his build, but you know, still pretty much the same. This is a build from before, and you could go this, and this is fine. But Tyr's one of those characters that I personally don't go TP on, but definitely can still do that if you prefer it. Just kind of gives you safety in like every single game, no matter the lane. Yeah, I like to go Blink and then maybe go Beads if they have any cripples that I have to worry about. Sometimes I'll go Sunder on Tyr, especially if I go Relic Dagger. That can be very strong. Same thing, just going straight into that Glad Shield. I still like to go Manticore on Tyr just because he has so much CC and it increases his damage so much because he literally gets 3 procs of it on his 1-2. He keeps pulling his different swords out and while I'm trying to record a video here. But anyway, yeah, still go Manticore on him. I like to go Relic Dagger, like I said, especially because if I can upgrade my Blink and get a Sunder and get both of those upgraded early, you can get so much value out of that. And I still like to go that kind of like movement speed build with a Wing Blade and straight into that Bluestone. Do not go Redstone on Tyr. I forgot to mention, you should really only go Redstone on characters that are actually going to be auto-attacking in fights, and Tyr is not a character that's going to be auto-attacking in fights. So yeah, keep that in mind for sure. And then usually like to round it out with the binding. This prot shred on the passive can be really good for all of your procs, all of your proc effects, whether it's you know, from Glad Shield, Manticore, stuff like that. Also, probably want to fit a Pridwin in the build now that I think about it, like I said, because you want to go Pridwin on basically everybody. So probably want to go that instead of binding, or go that instead of Wingblade. Kind of just whatever you want to do. You can go binding here and skip the Wingblade. I just like to go the movement speed build because it's fun, but if I do go that, I'd probably go Pridwin last item and not the binding, but binding here could also be a possibility, and that's the Tyr build. Pretty simple. Still a very strong character. They didn't really nerf it at all, and he can't lose any lane for the most part, so always a strong option. Coming in at number 3, we have Thor, another character that just got nerfed, but he is still going to be broken. They did not nerf the parts of him that matter. He's a really good tank because his base damage is super high, so it doesn't even matter how much power he gets from his passive, so that nerf was kind of irrelevant. And then they nerfed the scaling on his too, and that, I mean, I feel like I don't even have to explain that. That's pretty irrelevant as well. Another character where you kind of just rush Glad Shield. This is a character you can go Soul Eater on, and I think it is strong, but just got to be a little bit more careful in that early laning phase because rushing a defense item is just so strong. It makes it so you can't lose like any lane. Definitely want to go teleport on Thor just because it allows you to get around the map really easily in those lanes where you're going to get bullied a little bit. Just allows you to stay kind of even with them. And the rotation prowess as Thor with teleport is pretty crazy. I still like to go Manticore on him just because he has that double stun, you know, from his 2 and his ult and just help you full combo. So that's definitely something you should consider going. Straight into that Archdruids. Archdruid's still very strong in him. You could also go binding this spot just because, again, those stuns can really set up your damage. Same thing, Pridwin, gonna be going that glyph. And by this time, you should be able to upgrade your bluestone. Don't really ever go bluestone or redstone on Thor, but it's definitely something you could go on him. He actually can get a lot of auto attacks off, so you can get some value from it. And then if they have any healing, any relevant healing, I like to go Pestilence here. And that's pretty much the build, pretty bog standard. Usually go TP and beads. Don't really ever go blink on Thor. You don't really need to go that. He can initiate with his ult or with his wall stun into, you know, hammering in. Also something to consider in every single one of these builds, if I'm against a magical in lane, you notice how I've been going Glad Shield. You could still rush Glad Shield. There's not really any magical characters that can bully you that hard. But if I'm against a magical in lane, a lot of times I'll just go straight into the Archdruids, or what I've been doing a lot lately is actually going Prophetic. Because it allows you to get those prophetic stacks in lane, the magical stacks, and then usually their jungler is physical, so you can get stacks on him. And you don't even need to get a ton of stacks in the early game for this to get value. You will eventually get the stacks from the team fight, and this is the strongest defense item in the game. So I've been messing around with this build a lot more, but just going prophetic first, or even second item, like let's say I would have went here instead of the Manticore before. Like, it's a very strong item, and I definitely would consider building it in some of your games, especially if you're against a magical. So yeah, try that out and tell me what you guys think of that. I think it's pretty strong right now. Also another item that was inspired by Deathwalker. Coming in at number 2, we have Sun Wukong. Yep, who would have thought? Not me. It's the most boring characters at number 2 and number 1. We got Wukong, at least boring to play against. Wukong can be fun to play, so don't roast me in the comments. So yeah, Wukong, another character you can go Soul Eater on, and I think it's fine. I don't think you need to go it. You can do enough damage with the build I'm going to show you, and you don't need the sustain. Again, just rushing defense can be so strong. So if you're against a physical, go that Glad Shield first item, and that's most of the time what you're going to be against. If you're not against it, then I recommend going the Prophetic. You could also go Manticore's first item if you need to. Just gives you that mana sustain and everything. But yeah, Glad Shield. I like to, what I've been trying actually recently is going Abyssal Stone. I'm trying this a little bit more just because Archdruids was nerfed, and this does have the best base stats out of the entire group just because it gives you 250 health and 35 of each prot. And it's one of these items where it's really hard to tell whether it's getting a ton of value, but it just kind of has to, you know? Like, if a character relies on CDR and you're constantly proccing Abyssal Stone on them, which you can with Wukong because of his low cooldowns and the fact that he has good range with his one, like, I've been messing around with it more and more, and I'm liking it. Of course, you can still go the Archdruids, and I'll just throw that in there, but definitely try and consider going Abyssal Stone on a character like Wukong, who can proc it pretty easily. And then, same kind of bog standard build. So you'll notice throughout all these builds, I like to go Brawlers here just because you don't have that Pestilence. If they have lifesteal, you want to be able to actually dive them without them just lifestealing off of you. So I really like the Brawlers here. You could just go full tank, and that's fine. And then I kind of usually round it out with like McGuardian. If they have crit, I go Spectral. Just kind of whatever you need for that game. Don't usually want to go Pestilence. You don't really need a lot of magical defense on Sun Wukong just because he has a lot of ways to kind of be slippery in a fight, go into the air, make it really hard for the mage to play the game, and they basically just will be running away from you the entire time anyway. So yeah, like I said, Guardian, maybe Spectral, kind of whatever you need, and you could throw that into the build. And I usually go TP on him. You could also go beads. It's fine for him to initiate just by walking at them and poking them. Like I said, you do have the range for it, so, but most of the time I'll have a blink. You're just so safe that it's fine to kind of blink in, start a fight, and then go into the air, right? So little bit different of the build because you go like a brawlers. I think that's just really nice for Wukong to give him that one-shot potential, and since he's so slippery, you can kind of get away with it. So that's Wukong at number 2. Before we get to number 1, we'll go through the quick honorable mentions. We have Kusimbo coming in as an honorable mention. Yep, Kusimbo, and pretty crazy. I like to go Conduit. If I'm against a knockup, I actually like to rush Gaia. So I'll go tier 1 Gaia, go for 4 health pots, teleportation device, of course. And then, yeah, I like to rush into that guy. I think this item's actually kind of criminally underrated right now, and it makes it so hard for people to out-trade you in lane. Straight into that Glad Shield, another character that I think is pretty good with the Manticores, and this build path is just so nice because you don't have to worry about going a straight-up magical defense item. By this time, you might be able to up your Conduit. Not the best at farming is Kusimbo, so you maybe not able to. Another character that works really well with Binding. They have crit, consider Spectral. You can sell your Conduit late game for a tank item, and I recommend late game basically always doing that. But these proc effects are going to get a lot more value out of the Gem of Focus, a damage increase, so definitely something to consider. And I just go TP Blink every single game. I never would go beads on a character like Kusimbo, even if they have a ton of CC, you know. As long as you blink and start a fight, like, it should be a good start to a fight. You know, you don't care about living as this character, just get the fucking fight started, excuse my French. Coming in as another honorable mention, we have Lancelot. I think this character is criminally underrated right now, at least in the solo lane. I do like to go Bluestone Soul Eater on him every single game. I just think that extra damage potential allows you to kind of one-shot people with your full combo once you get that Soul Eater stacked up. Teleport, of course. And people do not recognize the damage, and just the healing in lane, you are going to get bullied no matter what you build. Even if you build Glad Shield first item against a lot of the laners, you're going to get bullied, but you just have so much rotation potential and such potential as a tank. And part of the reason for that, which I'll show you here in a second, I like to go kind of a similar build. Don't go Manticore on this god anymore. I don't think you need to do that. It was decent on before just because Manticore was broken, but now that it's more of just like a depends on your character type thing, do not go it. But this is why this character is so broken. Shields are not supposed to stack in Smite, but Lancelot's ult, when you ult in, you will get the Pridwin shield as well. They stack together, and it will literally be like 60% of your health bar, which is absolutely insane. Even if they sunder, it's not going to kill all of it. He's crazy as a tank for initiating right now. It's so hard for them to chew through your shield. And then, of course, you also have the option on this character to go Redstone. Remember, when you're on your horse, you're not going to be auto-attacking as much, and you do have a lot of abilities to go through for animation, so you maybe won't need to go a Redstone, but definitely something to consider. And not as good at proccing Prophetic, so maybe this character you wouldn't really want to consider that too much on unless you're against a magical. But yeah, situational last item, as always. I forgot to mention, you could always go Spirit Robe. Definitely a consideration, but yeah, Spectral. Probably what I'm building most games now just because crit is back in the meta. If I feel like I'm getting damaged too much by their magical at this point, late game I might sell the Soul Eaters because it drops off a little bit in that late game. And we might sell that for like a Pestilence, like I said before. Also been trying a bit of Absolution on some characters, but I think that's more of a niche item, so you could consider it. Basically never go beats because you have CC immunity on your horse and then you have CC immunity on your ult. But, you know, there's a rare scenario you might need beads just for like a... you know, like an Ares or something. Keep in mind, if Ares ults you on your horse, he actually doesn't pull you, he just stuns you in place. So you just get stunned wherever you are on your horse at the time. So most of the time, I'll just go Blink and, of course, upgrade that. Always upgrade to Scorching Blink. This item is broken. Never upgrade to this. Always upgrade to Scorching Blink, no matter your character. So, yeah. Lancelot is another one. And another character from the round table, right? Something like that. Yeah, sure. I don't know my lore. Is King Arthur. You can still go this build. This is something I recommend in the middle of the year or towards the beginning of the year. Definitely something you can go, but... ever since they buff Bluestone, you kind of can just go, you don't need to rush that Chalice with extra pots. You can just go, oops, sorry, did it out of order. You can just go the tier 1 Glad Shield into the pots. And like always, if you're against a magical, just rush Prophetic and start stacking that up. You could also go Manticores, really up to you. I think both are strong. A bit different on the build for Arthur, Pacifically Ocean-wise. You can go Manticores, and that's really strong on him, I think, just because he has so much CC, and it gives him that MP5 that he really needs because he's definitely a mana-hungry character. But also, you can consider going Contagion, especially if they're going to be proccing on you in lane. And again, I don't know, you can go Pestilence on Arthur as well, and that could be your anti-heal option, but it's really up to you. I think a lot of people like Contagion because it's the tier 2 of it is just so strong, and it makes it basically gives you infinite mana. So definitely something to consider if you're into that kind of thing. Still pretty similar on the build. These items are going to be strong for a reason for a while. Only thing you can't go on Arthur is Arch Druids. Literally does not work on him. So Do not build it because you can't proc with the auto attacks. Go to that bluestone. Spectral if you need it, if they have crit. A lot of people are building this build where they go gilded and they'll go like a one item like a Deathbringer or a Fail Not plus the gilded upgrade, and that can give them like 50% crit chance. So you'll be getting slammed. Plus they'll have kin size and execution or a bunch of shreds. So it's really hard to counter build. It's hard for us tanks right now, I will say. So yeah, definitely consider going Spectral if they have the crit. If they don't, Midgardian's always nice. And if their magical damage is slamming you, maybe consider getting a Pestilence. Always go Blink. Literally always go Blink on Arthur. Learn to play with Blink and not beads. Even against the comps like Ares and Daji, learn to play with Blink. If you're not comfortable with it, just go beads against those kind of comps where they have a lot of cripples like an Ardio and stuff. But I would say this character gets much more value when you can go Blink and Blink cult in the late game team fights. So those are my honorable mentions. And last but not least, we have the Jormungandr. Sadly, I hate to say it, it literally brings a fat ass tear to my eye. But Jormungandr is number 1. We are going Tainted. We're going Chronos Pendant, Rush. So tier 1 of that. You can also get a Chalice, I think. You can get a Chalice and 1 potion with this, I'm pretty sure. Don't feel like doing the math right now. But let's just say we'll put Teleport here. Definitely want to go Teleport on this character. Ungankable once you get Chronos Pendant because your ult will always be up. So much lane pressure. Gets every single totem. Wins every single lane. Can't really lose lane. Like, it's hard for me to even recommend characters for you guys to play against this character right now. Which is sad. So you rush into that Chronos Pendant, into that Glad Shield for those proc effects. You get so many abilities. These cooldowns are absurdly low right now. And of course, if there's like pools on the ground and they walk over it, Glad Shield will proc on them. Another character you could still consider going Manticore on. Definitely has enough CC for it. His 2 procs it, his 3 procs it, his ult will be procking it, and you get a million knockups in his ult if you can hit them all. So that's definitely something to consider. One character you don't want to go Protoad on. This is definitely one of those characters. I usually like to go Binding here, in fact, because it gives you that flat pen, helps your Glad Shield procs, and your Ethereal procs, which is what you're going to be going next. At this point, you should be able to get Tainted. Tainted Breastplate almost always. And now last item, magical damage, you got to worry about that. Throw in a Pestilence. They got crit, throw in the Spectral, you know, the same old story. Second round, like another character you can get away with a lot of different stuff. You don't really ever need to go beads on this character. Horrific is pretty good, I've found. I like Horrific for diving the backline. Enables you to like guarantee your abilities a little bit more as well. Sunder is still really strong in this character. Don't ever really want to go Thorns. I wouldn't go Blink on him. And like I said, I wouldn't go beads. So maybe like a Horrific or a Sunder or something like that. But yeah, that's Jormungandr sadly at number 1. If this character's up, you should pick him and you should play him in ranked, and you're going to win more games than you lose just because you'll win lane, you'll get totems, and you'll be a nuisance. And he does enough damage now. He's been buffed. People always ask me, people always say like, oh, all of a sudden this character's in the meta. What the heck? What happened? You guys don't know what you're talking about. This character has been buffed like 15 times over the past few years, and all of that stuff adds up. And when the meta changes, all the items change, and everything becomes a perfect storm for a character, suddenly they can become an absolute menace. And to be fair, some of it was maybe people overlooking before, but once you get like that amount of changes and all the things come together for him, yeah, they can be quite nasty, and Yorm's definitely an example of that right now. So yeah, that is the top 5 soul laners right now with the builds, and of course the honorable mentions. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below, and let me know what you think. What are you guys having success with? What are you having fun playing, most importantly? This is not a fun list, obviously for me, that goes without saying. This is what you should be playing to win right now, and what you should be building. So yeah, pretty similar over the past couple of weeks of like builds and stuff, or like maybe even the past couple of months. The builds have been pretty similar, so maybe they'll change up soon. And if they do, I will make another video and be sure to keep you guys updated. So yeah, that's basically it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you learned a thing or two, and I'll see you guys next time. I love you all. Peace out. I'm literally in my boxers right now. What do you guys think of that? Peace.